Hello, concerned citizens. My name is Veronica. Welcome to Saving Gen Z. I created Gen Z to help awaken the world to the dangers facing our children. Disclaimer. This video is not meant to bully, harass, or incite violence of any kind. I am a qualified medical and therapeutic professional, but the statements made in this video are not meant to be substituted for your or your child's private physician or therapist care. The materials used in the making of this video is permitted under the Fair Use Act. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share the videos. This helps promote the channel and educate the masses. Thank you, subscribers and supporters. Please help me support this channel by purchasing some merch or one of my best-selling books and become a Patreon. I hold monthly giveaways on Patreon and post bonus material. You can also follow me on Twitter. All links will be in the description box below. Now let's join together and build a better today so we can have a better tomorrow by questioning the narrative. Hello, concerned citizens. This is Veronica. I would like to share with you some information and give you an update in reference to a couple of cases that have been going on that caught my interest that I find extremely important to the narrative that is being pushed so hard in schools nowadays, all around the world, not just the USA. I'm in Miami Beach, by the way. Canada. It's been going really hard in Canada. Up in the Netherlands, Sweden, England is a big one, Australia. Now, the two cases I'm going to discuss are in Canada and in Texas because it's very recent. And it refers to mature minors. A lot of people have not heard of these terms. This term called mature minors. And it refers to, let's go to it. Let's talk about what a mature minor is. Okay. I want to give you visual aid so you can know I'm not making this stuff up. Okay. Okay, the mature minor doctrine. Okay. The mature minor doctrine provides for minors to give consent to medical procedures if they can show that they are mature enough, whatever that means, mature enough to make a decision on their own. And that the judgment of mature enough comes from a psychologist or a psychiatrist that has to evaluate the child and the judge in the case. And in Canada's case, a jury also can decide that. It is relatively new legal concept as of 2002. So this is when they started this indoctrination of mature minors and totally stripping parents of their rights and, quite frankly, the children of their rights also to be protected by loving family. And as of 2002, only a few states, such as Arkansas, not surprised there, Arkansas and Nevada, have enacted the doctrine into statute. In several other states, including Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Illinois, Maine, and Massachusetts, state high courts have adopted the doctrine as law. In the states where it exists, the mature minor doctrine takes into account the age and the situation of the minor to determine maturity, in addition to factors and conduct that can prove maturity. Okay, so that is what mature minor means. And in Canada, it's called Consent of a Minor Infants Act. Yes, they are still infants. So Consent of a Minor Infants Acts. Okay, these are for unemancipated children under the age of 19. Okay. But here's what what you could do when you hit 18. I just have to cover this. You have to be 18 to vote, join the military, donate blood and become an organ donor, work full time, play the lottery. You can't even buy a lottery ticket until you're 18, okay? Obtain special driving permits, purchase and use tobacco products, drive late at night, consent to having sex with someone that is 18 or older, establish a checking or savings account, apply for loans, apply for credit cards. You can't even get a credit card until you hit 18, where they bombard you in college and put you in even more debt. They give credit lines of $5,000 to $10,000 to college students. Trust me, I know. My ex-husband went into bankruptcy because of that. Get piercings or tattoos without parental permission. You can't even get a tattoo or a piercing without a parent approval. Okay? Change your birth name, file a lawsuit, get married, adopt, create a will, buy spray paint, fireworks, and adult videos. You cannot buy spray paint. I remember I was working on a project and I told my son, hey, run to the store, go get me this color. I need it right now. And he came back and said they won't sell it to me because he was like 15 or something like that. So yeah, you have to be 18. Purchase a house and vehicle, move out of your parents' home, which then you'd be emancipated. You can't do any of these things until you hit 18, correct? But a psychiatrist or a psychologist, the government, can decide that your 11-year-old is a mature enough minor to take medications that cause irreversible damage to their body. Medication that will castrate them. As a boy, make them impotent, make their testicles not grow, make them not develop male hormones, put the kibosh on their sperm, developing sperm, and for girls, put the kibosh, stop them from developing eggs, from ovulating, from getting their period, sterilizing them, basically, on top of a whole load of other side effects, which we're going to discuss because I was on this medication also for what my doctor said was endometriosis and turned out to be something else. And this drug nearly killed me. Okay? We're going to discuss this first case. This case is in Canada. It's a pretty big case. This is where I first heard the word mature minor. Okay. This father's actually still fighting. The father of a 14-year-old girl apparently doesn't have much to say in the way of approving or disapproving his daughter's request to receive hormone therapy to assist in a gender transition. Okay, the details. Maxine, which is not the real girl's name, was attending a British Columbia school when her dad discovered that school officials were treating her as a male at her request. The dad had no clue until he saw this in the yearbook. Wait till you find out her age. According to a Tuesday article from the Federalist, his daughter started going by a male named Quinn without his knowledge or permission. The outlet pointed to British Columbia's Ministry of Education Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity Policy, which stipulates that administrators in the education system are not required to disclose students' sexual orientation or gender identification to the parents. In other words, your child could be 5 years old having all these issues, whether it's gender dysmorphic issues, body dysmorphic issues, anything related to their sex, they're not required to tell you. Excuse me. They're not required to say a single word to you. Meanwhile, your child's suffering and you have no idea why and what's going on because the government has decided to take your place. Needless to say, the child's father was disturbed by the news. I do want to put this in right now that the mother was very well aware. The parents were divorced, which seems to be a theme in all of these instances. We're going to cover another one, the exact same thing. The parents were going through a divorce. The Federalist reported that the young girl had a troubled recent history and suffered from depression since her parents' divorce, which took place in 2013. The young girl's father noted that his daughter had previously gone through a phase of lesbianism as well. The school referred to the girl to a LGBT activist psychologist, Dr. Wallace Wong, who insisted that the child be permitted to undergo gender reassignment therapy and suggested she begin receiving hormone injections. And that actually took place when the girl was 11 or 12 years old without the father's knowledge. Naturally, the young girl's father would not consent. It didn't matter. The hospital decided to forge ahead with the treatment without consent of the teen's dad anyway. So this child was receiving hormone. She was receiving hormone blockers without parental consent, and they're allowed to do this to your child. A letter to the girl's father obtained by the Federalist stated Quinn's healthcare team has concluded that the girl, I'm saying she because it's a biological female. Quinn's healthcare team has concluded that she possesses significant maturity and intelligence to be capable of consenting to her own medical care, notwithstanding the fact that she is only 14 years old. What were you doing at 14? I know what I was doing at 14. At 14, I told everybody I was asexual because I didn't want to be like the women in my family, and I couldn't stand the men in my family. And I went around with a short wig, pastel necktie, pastel pants, and an Oxford shirt. That's when I wasn't in my school uniform because I went to an all-girls school on top of that, Catholic all-girls school. That's what I was doing at 14 to 16. Imagine that. Imagine what would have happened to me now. Some activists would sit there and try to convince me that I'm not really a girl, that I'm confused, instead of asking what is really going on, not jumping to that conclusion. Ask the child. This girl had a whole host of issues from the moment her parents were getting divorced. It's a long history. Being suspended from school, getting in trouble, constantly being sent home since her parents were getting divorced. Shouldn't that have a play in it? Don't you think something's wrong? They don't even want to look beyond that. Why is that? Why? Ask yourself why. Why the rush to sterilize these children? Why? You think 14 is bad. It started when she was 12. Next story, wait till you see the next story. The boy was only 7. And now they're looking for 3. I don't know how many 7-year-olds and 3-year-olds could consent to being impotent, they won't even know what that means. Being castrated. They have no clue what that means. A 14-year-old has no idea what that means. The letter continued. Furthermore, the team agrees that the proposed course of treatment is in her best interest. We appreciate that these conclusions differ from your own, we always strive to get parents to agree to support a proposed course of treatment. However, under the circumstances, we're of the view that it is ultimately up to Quinn, which is the girl's name, the boy name, and she's going, I don't drink the Kool-Aid, so I refuse to go according to their insanity. I will not buy into it. To give or withdraw consent to her own medical care. Neither you nor her mother can make this decision for her. 14-year-old. This is what this activist who's working for the government decided to put forward. The hormone injections were to commence within 2 weeks of her father receiving the letter. Imagine receiving that letter at home from the school. Schools have turned into indoctrination camps. This is why I am making Saving Gen Z as a parent, as an aunt, as a pediatric nurse, as a group therapist for adolescent kids. This is why I have to do this, because it's becoming indoctrination into a very sick system. Grooming, which please watch the previous video talking about grooming and why it's going on. It's just getting ahead of what's coming out right now. All this sexual abuse and child trafficking coming out, it's getting ahead of it to cover these big name people in government, in Hollywood, and all that. What did the girl's dad do next? In response to the letter, Maxine's dad filed a court motion to prevent the facility from filling up his daughter with hormones to assist in a gender reassignment for which he did not approve. The British Columbia Supreme Court agreed to temporarily prevent the girl from receiving injections until further notice. Last week, this was a few months ago. Last week, according to the Federalist of British Columbia, Supreme Court considered a motion to prevent the hospital from injecting Maxine with testosterone. They were actually going to start giving her testosterone for another 45 days in order to allow for a full adjudication of the case. I have a problem with Maxine exploring the role. I have no problem, because the dad was like, if she wants to be a tomboy, explore the gender roles of being a male, that was fine with him. He had no argument with that. His argument was, give the girl a chance to grow up. And again, the mother, who was very angry at the dad, we're going to see this is a pattern, was pushing for this, was backing up the girl. The young girl's father said during the recent interview about this case, it's not to me a transgender issue. Her father noted that he has more of an issue with the way the school and the hospital circumvented his parental right and responsibilities than anything else. He had joint custody. It just happens to be that it involves transgenderism. He added, it's true. It just happened to be transgenderism. Imagine if your kid went to the school and decided to tell them, I'm going to take from my own family, my niece. She is a tween. She developed breasts, rather large ones. And she asked me to convince my sister so she can get a breast reduction. I said, absolutely not. You just started puberty. After puberty. Okay, at least wait till you're 18. And if it's real bad, then we'll discuss it at 16, but not right now, not when you're 13 years old. Okay, now imagine if she could go to the school and tell the school this, and the school decides, yeah, guess what? We took your child to the hospital and we chopped off her breast. It was her decision to make. Imagine that. Cancer treatment, your child has cancer. Full disclosure, I'm a certified holistic integrative health nurse and I do have my own practice. Okay? Or your child has seizures, your child is sick, and they decide what medication your child's going to get that you have absolutely no say in it whatsoever. Imagine that. Now they're taking this child You really think a 14-year-old little girl understands the ramifications of taking Lupron, taking testosterone, what's going to do to her body, getting facial hair, and then she turns 16, then all of a sudden, oh, or 18, this is not me, I don't want to do it. What then? Irreversible damage. Oops, you can't have babies anymore. Irreversible damage they're causing these children. Okay, here we go. Canada sees exponential rise in trans-identified youngsters. Referrals to gender clinics. Yeah, it's like 4,000% jump worldwide. All of a sudden, these referrals to gender clinics. Some people look at this sign. This is on a classroom door. This is on a classroom door. This is literally a classroom door. Some people are trans. Get over it. I don't recall seeing stuff like this when I was in school, and I grew up in New York City. In response to Canada Broadcasting Company, some youngsters hospital in Canada are reporting that the very least a doubling, if no more, within a variety of youngsters in search of gender transition. If you refer back to the video I did yesterday on the 24th of October 2019, they're causing gender confusion. I posted a couple of programs, sex ed programs, and one of them is even outside of sex ed, starting in kindergarten, talking about a trans person snowman. They say it's 2% of the population. I say it's 0.2%. They're specifically focusing on the trans snowman when it comes to intersex. I was a pediatric nurse for 10 years, okay? I've met one baby in 10 years. That was a true hermaphrodite. Okay. And the reason why I am covering Canada, it's because ever since Trudeau came in, it's just exploded because he's pushing it so hard. Lupron. Now, Lupron is the medication that they give for several reasons. It is a chemotherapy drug, okay, a hormonal agent that is employed to battle prostate most cancers in men, and is usually used to deal with intercourse offenders. It is now being injected into youngsters that suffer from gender dysmorphia. Okay, and this is absolutely true. I'm very familiar with the drug Lupron. Full disclosure, years ago, I was injected with Lupron after I had my son because I would not stop bleeding. And they said I had endometriosis. And it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. I experienced 10% bone density loss. I lost my hair. I looked like a cancer patient. I was using a cane to get around. I ended up on disability for 6 months. I could not work. I was constantly fainting. The mood swings were absolutely out of control, up and down, up and down. And within that 3-month period, I gained over 60 pounds. I just blew up. Not that I was eating, I was constantly vomiting. Shut down my thyroid. It shut down my thyroid. And when the injection stopped, it took me a good 12 years to get back to normal. 12 years. That is my nightmare with Lupron. I did join a victims group on Facebook, Victims of Lupron, And I did team up with some other women to go after the doctor who injected me. And I found out that he was getting a $250 kickback for every shot that he gave, because my sister's friend worked for him, which is why I went to him in the first place. He was getting kickback, $250 a shot. And then when we came after him, yeah, he closed his clinic and disappeared back to the Philippines. All right. So I am no fan of Lupron. And they also give Lupron for precipitous puberty, which is puberty starting at the age of 8 and younger, which is what happened to a cousin of mine. Her daughter, who was 8 years old, developed breast buds, started having little underarm hair, and she was extremely concerned and took her daughter to the pediatrician. Immediately, the pediatrician wanted to inject her daughter with Lupron. All I can say is God arranged it for her to come by and see me first to pick up a Christmas gift that my uncle sent to her. And she's like, yeah, I just came from the pediatrician. Do you know anything about Lupron? She wants to inject my daughter with it. You know, I'm so concerned about her puberty. I'm like, what? Lupron? So I gave her the lowdown of all the side effects of Lupron, which we're going to go through. We're going to discuss briefly. And I scared her enough to not do it. And I told her, I have been in your fridge. I know what's in there. There's nothing organic. Everything has hormones. Everything is GMO. She goes, yeah, but we eat well. I'm like, no, it's about all the hormones in the food. So I gave her a list of stuff to throw out of her fridge and get rid of all soy products. She was like, oh, but you told me not to have regular milk anymore because of the hormones, so I don't. We drink soy. I'm like, soy has a lot of hormones in it, even if it's organic. Lots of hormones. I can't go anywhere near soy. Anywhere near soy. Ever heard the term soy boy? It does the boys. A lot of soy. And edamame is also soy. So soy has a lot of estrogen. So I said, get rid of everything soy. Get rid of all the GMOs. All your meat and chicken, make sure it is hormone free. It is free range and organic. She switched all of that within a couple of months. The girl's breast went down. The buds are gone. I just saw them recently. The hair on the armpits and the tiny hair on the pubic, gone. Everything is gone. She went back to the doctor, hormone levels normal. Guess what? The doctor still wanted to inject the girl. Still wanted to inject the child. 6 months later, she's still fine. No signs of precipitous puberty. None whatsoever. Take a look at your fridge. Okay? The extra estrogen going into our children, causing precipitous puberty in boys and girls, and the boys feminizing them. I'm going to do a whole separate video on the feminization of boys because it is so important. Okay. The drug has by no means been green lighted by the FDA for that function. It actually has not. It has not been green lighted. It has not been okay. There is absolutely zero long-term studies on the side effects of injecting children with Lupron. None whatsoever. No studies. A national analysis examined involving 10 clinics from throughout the nation, known as Trans Youth Can, additionally discovered that a variety of youngsters who determined as transgender or non-binary referred to gender clinics has elevated tremendously all through Canada. Again, it's not just Canada, it's around the world. In fact, investigators showed a 4,000% rise during the last 10 years, being referred to as gender dysmorphic. Anybody find that strange? Anybody find that strange? Okay. Why puberty blockers are a clear danger to children's health. And then you have this full. Trans lives matter. Trans rights, civil rights. Of course they are. But what right does the state have to inject your child with something that is going to sterilize them? Not just sterilize them. Let's go through, you know what? I want to go through all the side effects. I think it's the side effects of Lupron. This is the writer, Jane Robbins. I've written here, I have written here about physicians who push the boundaries of ethical practice by administering untested medical treatments to children and adolescents suffering from gender dysmorphia. Such treatments include puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and so-called sex reassignment surgery. Okay, citing guidelines issued by the political advocacy group World Professional Association for Transgender Health, WPATH. These physicians admit that the efforts of cross-sex hormones are generally irreversible. I'm going to say that again. They admit, these physicians, these activist physicians, admit that the effects of cross-sex hormones are generally irreversible. Vulnerable parents who agree to this treatment are thus crossing the Rubicon into permanent bodily impairment. So these courts are claiming that 14-year-olds, kids under 19, 14-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 7-year-olds, have the wisdom and the knowledge to know that they're causing permanent, irreversible damage to themselves. And here's what they're doing under the guise of administering hormone blockers to very young children. Time to explore their identity, but at what cost? That's what the courts are saying now. Okay, we won't start injecting them, which you see the next case on the 7-year-old. We won't inject them with the hormones yet, but we're going to do hormone blockers so they can give them time to explore themselves. One of the puberty blockers frequently administered to girls who identify as boys, male to female, is called Lupron. Lupron belongs to a class of drugs. Yeah, we already discussed that. Suppresses the production of estrogen, delaying the physical changes of puberty in pubescent females. And the argument is it gives them time to explore their gender identity. You know, make them into not girls, not boys, but into something. A thing. You know, whatever happened to just being a tomboy, which I was, and I still think I am, actually. I do a lot of things that my female friends are like, how do you do that? Always been a tomboy. And whatever happened to just being a femboy? What's wrong with being a femboy? One of my best friends growing up, total femboy. Okay, hung out with the girls, wore little crop tops, and the girls protected him. Yeah, the boys, you know, looked at him sideways. But in New York, it was a lot more liberal, you know, so no one tried to beat him up or anything like that, you know, and I remember putting makeup on my friend. Again, I was the first person to put a friend of mine who was 28 in drag in my clothes. By the way, we won 3rd place in the competition. So, you know, it's not about being transphobic or homophobic to say injecting hormones or putting hormone blockers, which they have no idea what the long-term effects are, except to know darn straight that they cause irreversible damage and sterilization into children is a type of phobia. No, it's called love and caring. We discussed how it's originally for prostate cancer in men. Okay, and here are the side effects. And precipitous puberty, we discussed that. Many of these patients have experienced extreme side effects, which if you go on the Lupron site, they love nothing more than to say these are uncommon, rare side effects. BS, because there wasn't a single person in a group of over 50,000 people I spoke to who did not experience the same side effects as I did. Okay? And it does shatter your life. Just thinking about it, I feel like crying because of how horrible it was. Severe joint pain, osteoporosis, which I reversed, and it took me 12 years to reverse the osteoporosis from age 28. Compromised immune system, mental health issues such as severe depression and even suicidal ideation. Yeah, I did attempt suicide when I was on Lupron. I sure did, while my son was in his crib and my daughter was in school, because it was that severe, the depression. Okay, the FDA received 24,000 reports of adverse reactions, which half was deemed serious, among all the other things. And that she goes on to her own story. Lupron side effects. Talking about 22-year-old, 21-year-old. But yeah, just remember, they want to give this to 7-year-olds. And now they're pushing it as far as 3-year-olds. This is what they want to do to a child. The government, your government, my government, schools that we're supposed to trust, these activist doctors who are, I can't even explain them. I can't, especially coming from the medical field. I can't even explain it. We already covered that. Okay, I want to cover this. Yes, this dad right here. Oops. Okay, this was on the 22nd. This dad's been fighting this case again, getting a divorce. His wife is a doctor. Does anybody see? This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a pattern, a blatant one. All right, the jury actually ruled against the dad fighting to not have his son receive hormone blockers. The mother actually wanted to go as far as chemical castration on her son. She was a doctor. She is a pediatrician. These women are doctors. Tell me something's not going on here. On Monday, a jury ruled against a Texas father, Jeffrey Young, attempting to stop his 7-year-old son from gender transition being facilitated by Dr. Ann Gregorius, the boy's mother, and Younger's ex-wife. This is horrific. I had palpitations hearing about this story. With a consensus of 11 of the 12 juries, the jury decided not to grant Mr. Younger sole managing conservatorship over his two twin boys. They voted that the current joint managing conservatorship should be replaced by a sole managing conservatorship but Miss Younger should not be that parent. They decided sole custody was going to go to the mom so she can go ahead with what she's been doing to her son. According to LifeSite News, Gregorius, I'm horrible pronouncing names, okay, has been granted authority to move forward with the puberty blockers, which can cause chemical castration, potentially hormones, if she so chooses. According to the reporting from the Texan, remember this is in Texas and New York, Gregorius lawyer Jessica Janik and Laura Hayes, it should be Hayes, right? Hayes, said the mother does not plan on giving James hormone blockers at this time. However, no one has stated that she, Glorious, would not be open to using them when James begins puberty, which would be around 11 and a half for a boy, the reporter said. Additionally, the jury decision Additionally, with the jury's decision, Mr. Young will likely be forced to affirm his son's new gender identity, a girl named Luna. Oh boy. Okay. And this is what gets to me. I want you to imagine having electronic conversation with your son on FaceTime and imagine that your ex-wife has dressed him as a drag queen to talk to you. This is a dad talking, Younger told host Luke Marcus during an episode of the Luke Marcus Show podcast in January. He has false eyelashes and makeup. His hair has glitter in it, and he's wearing a dress. Okay. She's trying to make her son into a drag kid, okay? And dress them up FaceTime with false eyelashes and makeup to talk to his dad. Now you'd be saying, oh, it's just dress up and fun. Okay. We're going to do something. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old. I don't recall at 7 wearing false eyelashes. Maybe you put on some lip gloss when playing dress up. But let's see what a 7-year-old girl looks like nowadays, shall we? Shall we see what a 7-year-old... Well, there's a bunch of 7-year-old girls. Interesting. Baseball mitt. She's doing softball. There's a bunch of 7-year-old girls. Why, I don't see any false eyelashes or makeup on any of them. You're telling me that the whole drag kid movement is not the sexualization of children? Well, here's a little girl all dressed up. Well, gee, I don't see any lipstick. I don't see false eyelashes. I don't see any of that. He's an African-American kid. That's sickening. I don't see anything. All right, so this is what 7-year-old girls look like. Well, here's a little Japanese girl. How pretty. No false eyelashes there. No makeup there. What do you know? Nope, none of that. None of that. What do you know? Okay, well, let's look at a drag kid. What do they look like? Wow. Look at that. That's a little boy. Stark difference, huh? That's very sexual looking, isn't it? He looks like a blow-up sex doll. And again, like I said, in fact, let me prove something to you guys right now. So I won't be called phobic of any kind. There you go. Can you see that? That's me and a drag queen. I have lots of pictures of me with me drag queens. So there you go. Debunk. Here we go. Well, how incredibly sexual. Look at these children. I don't know too many little 7-year-old girls who dress like this. 10-year-old girls. Imagine seeing this as your son. This is what's being promoted. Look at this child. This is a little boy. You're telling me it's not sexualization. It's not abuse. It is abuse. It's actual abuse of the children. But good news for the dad in Texas, okay? This just came out. 25th. It just came out today, all right, in the news. Judge awards joint medical decision-making to father trying to stop 7-year-old son from gender transition. A judge ruled in a bitter custody battle involving a father trying to stop his ex-wife transitioning their 7-year-old son into a girl. So the judge, thank goodness, the judge ruled it. But here's the thing that really sucks. When the boy is with the dad and his twin brother, he dresses up as a boy. And it was the child's decision to do that. The father did not force him to. The kid decided to dress as a boy. He said he likes looking like his brother and his dad. He doesn't play with girl toys. He doesn't do anything. But when he's with his mom, she puts lipstick and fake eyelashes and dresses him like a stripper. Texas father trying to stop 7-year-old son's gender transition at the hands of his mother has been awarded joint medical decision-making rights by the judge. So the jury decided that the dad shouldn't have any rights. Get rid of joint custody. Sole custody goes to the mom so she could chemically castrate her son. But then the judge turned around and said, you have 50-50 decision-making, and when it comes to his medical status, and there is no way she could move forward with this whole transitioning thing without the dad saying yes. So, which is fantastic. Oh, I mean, when I heard that this morning, I felt like I could finally breathe. I literally wanted to vomit. I kid you. It sounds dramatic, but I was like traumatized from the whole thing. What video is this? Yeah. Now, here's what's going on. And I want you guys to listen to this story of this person. This is a transgender person over in Britain, right? I think they're in England, yes. And it was a female to male transition. And this is really going on right now. This, even Bruce Jenner, I heard, who's Caitlyn Jenner now, I heard wants to detransition. Imagine doing this to a 7-year-old. Imagine doing this to a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old child, baby. This was a grown person. I want you to listen to her story.
Male at 13 years old, now 21, she'd been planning to have surgery to remove her breasts. But in May, she made the decision to come off testosterone and detransition to identify as female, her sex at birth. She doesn't want to be identified, so we changed her name.
I figured it would be better for me to try to deal with my gender dysphoria in a different way, rather than permanently changing my body.
How much support did you feel was out there for you when you came to this conclusion?
I didn't feel like there was any support out there, other than like a few friends online.
Ruby now feels her eating disorder was more of a factor than she first realised in her gender dysphoria.
None of the therapists that I spoke to brought that up. They didn't think that it was linked.
Do you?
I think so, yes, because they're both kind of based in how I feel about my body, so I've seen similarities between the two.
Charlie Evans is forming a charity to support people in Ruby's position. After going public with her detransition story, she discovered an online community of 5,000 in a similar position, 30 people alone in her area of Newcastle.
I was approached by a young woman with a beard, and she hugged me and said, I'm a detransitioned woman as well, I've just stopped taking testosterone. And after that I felt like I had to do something. I'm hearing from hundreds of people, and I think some of the common characteristics are they tend to be around their mid-20s, they're mostly female and mostly same-sex attracted, mostly lesbians, and often autistic as well.
The Tavistock and Portman NHS Trust told us the experience of regret described here is extremely rare. Their gender identity service for children in Leeds and London now has a record number of referrals. The clinics here and in London see 3,000% more patients than they did 10 years ago. Among girls, referrals are up more than 5,000%. There's no question this service is helping children who feel distressed in their own bodies. But the full impact of children making decisions about their gender at such young ages may not truly be clear until much later in their lives. At 21, it's had a positive outcome for Jamie and his mum. After testosterone and surgical treatment, he's far happier than the torment of his teenage years.
It was kind of hell. Like, it's just not something you'd want to go through if you're trans. Like me, it's just, it's awful. Like, everything that happens to you within that stage of puberty for a female, for a trans man, it's awful.
There's currently no data for how many in the trans community detransition, and to talk about it can be viewed as transphobic. But people like Ruby say more discussion is needed, as well as more options for people with gender dysphoria. Sally Lockwood, Sky News.
God bless Jamie. God bless all of them. Seriously. Let me get back over here. Hey, God bless them. You know, I don't understand why more trans people aren't taking a stand and saying, you know, you will not use us to push your sick agenda. You will not use us to say it's okay to abuse children. You will not use us for that. I wish more people would stand up and to the ones with the bullhorns, the loudmouths who have no clue, who probably don't even know a trans person, who probably never cared for somebody who's trans, who's never been in the service, unless you find these doctors who are pushing an agenda, who are part of the government, more than likely. These school administrators who sold their souls so they can gain your child and pad their pockets. Okay? So, wow, this went a lot longer than I thought. And I said it was going to be a quick little video, but this is such an important topic. So please share. Don't be afraid to share. More and more people need to understand what is going on, need to see the agenda of what's going on. Okay? Veronica out. We got this, people. We got this. Okay? Things will get better. Much love. Bye.